And it was interesting today, wasn't it? So many people speaking today, talking about unity, but then when it comes to some of the MPs, they say, yeah, Jeremy Corbyn's got a huge mandate, we must all support him, but actually I'm not going to go into the shadow cabinet, I will leave that to others. So that is the dilemma that the party's in a way. There's a leader who has just been overwhelmingly elected by the party, but the parliamentary party, the MPs, they don't support or share Jeremy Corbyn's vision, not very many of them do. And then of course many of those MPs think that Jeremy Corbyn is very much out of step with the British electorate. So how he manages all of that is going to be pretty tricky in the coming days. He has said before he wants to reach out, he wants to be collegiate, he wants to bring others in, but will he compromise on his principles? Will he compromise on issues like scrapping Trident? And even if he wants to, for the sake of the unity in the parliamentary party, it could well be that the 250,000 people who've just voted for him won't want him to do that. And the thing that seems to have attracted them is, it's his principles, it's the way that he talks, the way that he looks. He just looks and sounds different to any other frontline politician that we've had for the last 20, 30 years. And I think that's what's galvanised people. The question is, will he have the same effect on the wider British electorate?
Yes, and brutally, Vicky, he is also lacking in experience for this. I mean, he's been on the backbenches for more than 30 years. This is someone who is going to be looking at a very, very steep learning curve.
Yeah, that's right. And people asked him during this campaign, do you want to be Prime Minister? And in the beginning, he didn't really answer the question. But I think obviously it dawned on him over the weeks that actually he might well win. The question is who's going to help him with all of that support. It was interesting at many of his rallies that the staff and the stewards there were, a lot of them were from the unions, from Unite, who of course are incredibly organised. They have money, of course, and they will offer him support. Len McCuskey, the union leader, was someone that he greeted and hugged in the sort of hour after he won. So there's that element of all of it. But yeah, he doesn't have that experience. He has really pursued his own, sometimes controversial agenda from the backbenches. And unlike Michael Foot, people have talked a lot about Michael Foot making some kind of comparison with him. Michael Foot had served under other leaders. He had experience. This is not the case with Jeremy Corbyn. And again, it's partly that that has attracted people, the fact that he is just completely different. Now, of course, come Monday, he will have to go into the House of Commons. There will be obviously legislation going on, and on Wednesday he will have to do Prime Minister's questions, and he's already said that he wants to shake that up, to change it a bit, and sometimes he will let other people ask questions on his behalf. So it will be very interesting to see how David Cameron responds to all of that. The Tories, of course, will be pretty happy about it all, but whether they're going to be gloating or not, that might not be the best thing to do.
Yes. All right, Vicky, thanks for now. Vicky Young, outside Labour HQ. Let's discuss some of what Vicky was outlining there with me here. Standing next to me, Ian Dunt, the editor of politics.co.uk, and George Eaton, the political editor of The New Statesman. Gentlemen, welcome both. Goodness, the scale of this. Did either of you see this coming? The actual scale, George?
I thought he would win in the first round, but I thought it would be in the low 50s. I didn't think he'd get near 60% as he did, and that's the biggest mandate that any party leader has won in history. So that is a momentous and stunning result. And it's all the more stunning, of course, because I can't think of a party leader who's ever been elected with so little support from their MPs. Although 35 MPs nominated Jeremy Corbyn, I think just 14 actually went on to vote for him. So the Labour doesn't just have a traditional left-right split, it also has a profound split between its members and its MPs. And he's now somehow going to have to bridge that divide.
And that's what's so tricky now, isn't it, Ian?
Yeah, that and the fact that the press is about to come after him like no one's ever experienced before. So I think really key for him now is just survive the next 3 months. The Tories will be very keen to cement an idea in the public's mind, dangerous, lunatic communist that's about to destroy this country. He needs to make sure he can get over those 3 months, actually try to speak to the public above the head of the press, and put together another narrative, which is really the story of here is a normal guy, speaks normal language, speaking truth to power against the Westminster elite. If you can do that, and we'll know by Christmas, I think, whether he's accomplished it, he actually, has a better chance than many of the pundits give him.
I mean, do we know whether he really is up for that. But my point being, he had to be persuaded to enter this contest in the first place. I mean, surely at the start of this, he went into it genuinely thinking, I'm here to shake up the debate, to put my sort of policies as part of the debate, and without ever thinking he was going to win.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, they met up in Parliament, the usual suspects on the left, and said, well, who's going to do it this time? And it turned out it was him. And he got the lucky draw because it looked like the movement was there. I'm not sure the character of the person that benefited from it is necessarily the one that the movement will need. He doesn't look like he's desperate to be doing this. I think he's going to suffer under the bombardment that the press will give him. And crucially today, you saw in his speech real anger coming out when he discussed the way that his family had been targeted by journalists. So part of that discomfort, I think, could come out in him going to war with the press. Typically speaking, when someone goes to war with the press, they don't come out of it very well.
Yeah, I mean, George, there were a lot of references to the media, weren't there, in that victory speech?
Yes, and my guess is that Jeremy Corbyn will take a very different approach to the media to most leaders. I don't think he'll do as many interviews as other leaders have in the past. I think he'll try to appeal above the heads of the traditional media and use social media much more. But then, Ed Miliband tried that to an extent, and people would say it didn't work out very well for him.
Given the split that you outlined at the beginning, talk to us about the importance, the role of Tom Watson now, because as deputy leader, in difficult times, which there may be ahead for the party, I mean, he's going to be more powerful, more important, more valuable than any deputy leader perhaps has been before.
Yes, and here's the big irony. So some of Tony Blair's supporters in the party have never forgiven Tom Watson for the role that he played in the coup that ousted Tony Blair. But they now see Tom Watson as one of their last hopes because he does come from a very different Labour tradition to Jeremy Corbyn. Although he's an anti-establishment figure who took on Rupert Murdoch over phone hacking, he's not actually from the left of the party. He has very different views on issues such as defence and foreign policy to Jeremy Corbyn. And he is a man who they believe in times of trouble for Jeremy Corbyn may not necessarily be fully supportive of the leader. And there's some on the left who are quite suspicious of Tom Watson for those reasons. But Tom Watson himself has been very clear that Jeremy Corbyn has won a huge victory among the members, and he sees his role now as to try to unify the party, so to bridge the gulf between MPs and party members.
How much scope, I mean, how many times today have all of us heard the word unity, but how much scope is there for that? I was talking to John McTernan earlier in this hour, who worked under Tony Blair. Of course, he painted a very bleak picture of what the party has done today. But when he's got the kind of mandate he's got, can they really start thinking about getting rid of him already? No, I'm not saying John McTernan suggested that, but there will be people who've talked about it.
I can't believe that they would even consider it, anything ahead of 2 years. I mean, he's won himself at least that much, given the degree of the mandate that he won, that he got it from all three constituencies of the Labour Party, the membership and the supporters, as well as the trade unions. So I don't think there's any chance of them really going for him in 2 years, unless he does something utterly cataclysmic in these first 2 years, says something so appalling that the media furore destroys Labour's polling. I think otherwise he's won himself at least 2 years. What happens after that is another person's guess.
Ian Dunt, George Eaton, thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. Thank you. Well, we've also heard in the last little while first comments from Jeremy Corbyn's brother. Piers Corbyn has been talking to journalists. Let's hear what he had to say.
This is fantastic. It has changed the face of British politics. Now, accountability is the way forward.
There's probably no one on this earth who knows Jeremy as well as you do.
I've known him longer than anyone else here.
Are you surprised this has happened?
From what I was thinking 3 weeks ago, I'm not surprised. Just after the general election, we did have discussions. I said, there are people out there who do want something new, and he knows that too. But this, compared with then, is a surprise.
As the man who knows him best, tell me what qualities he brings. Tell me about him.
Well, like all Corbyns, he's got integrity, stands for principles, and stays with the tasks.
And do you think, he's created quite a lot of controversy as well as support, people saying that there's no way that he could possibly lead the country. The Tories say he's a security threat. What do you think?
Well, that's absurd. They would say that, wouldn't they?
What do you've been with your brother in the early days, in the early 80s, his late 70s when he was rallying against for the CND and going on lots of different marches. He's always had this streak, hasn't he?
Well, he was blazing the trail. He was saying we have to talk to the IRA, while the government were talking to the IRA secretly. And what we've got now is peace in Northern Ireland. Essentially, he's been showing the way forward when others have been frightened to stand for what is right.
Lots of people said that actually he wanted to argue for the left, but he never really had any intention of winning, and in fact didn't even want to win.
No, this is just a story. I mean, he's surprised to be in the situation he is now, but, you know, a month ago it was becoming clear that there's a hunger in the country for proper democracy, no more spin politics, accountability. And in these ridiculous arguments about plots and so on, look, there's all sorts of people who may or may not be against him, but a lot are now going to rally behind him because Labour is moving forward on policies which stand for the whole people.
Piers Corbyn there talking about his brother's victory. Let's discuss that victory as well with Richard Burgon MP, who has joined me, a new MP who, well, as we can tell from your badge, very much behind. So a very good day for you. Have you spoken to Jeremy Corbyn today? Do you know what the mood is in the camp?
Well, I should imagine that the mood in the camp is very elated, very happy, but also focused upon the big jobs that need to be done, both in the Labour Party, in the media and across the country, to campaign on the basis of the ideas that Jeremy Corbyn won such an overwhelming majority on the back of.
I was talking a little earlier to John McTernan now. He worked under Tony Blair, and we all know what Tony Blair said over the summer, so we understand where he's coming from. But he painted a pretty bleak picture of what the Labour Party has chosen to do today, because he says, yes, lots of members like and support Jeremy Corbyn, that's why they voted for him, but that is utterly untested within the public at large, and therefore how can you win an election on that basis?
Who knows, the weeks, months and years ahead may cheer John McTernan up, and we'll be trying our best to do that. I think people got to understand that things have changed. The economy has changed since the late 1990s. The situation of people in work and out of work has changed since the 1990s, and people are in a precarious position in a different way to the way they were back in the days that Tony Blair won a majority in 1997. One of the great lessons of New Labour was that you've always got to remain relevant to the period in which you're operating. And I think some figures from the past maybe haven't learned their own lesson. So we're very much looking forward to the future and looking to solve the problems that exist in Britain in 2015, not the problems that existed in Britain in 1997.
But a lot of those problems existed only a few months ago when the British people voted in a Conservative government.
Well, I never heard when I was campaigning, I spoke to thousands of people during the campaign, I never heard, I'm not voting for Labour because Labour's too left-wing. What I did hear time and time again is I'm not voting Labour because you're all the same. Now, I think that was an unfair perception, but I do think there's an appetite out there for a real challenge, a real choice, a real challenge to the Conservative Party's economic programme, and no one can accuse Jeremy Corbyn or a Jeremy Corbyn-led Labour Party of being more of the same.
Has he got to choose his shadow cabinet very, very carefully now in terms of that issue of unity against the backdrop of lots of big hitters who've already said, I'm sorry, I'm off to the back benches, I'm not going to take part?
Well, every Labour Party leader has to choose a shadow cabinet carefully. In terms of figures who have announced that they'll be not serving in a shadow cabinet, I think party members across the country will be very disappointed that they've taken the view that's appropriate to say that in the press and do that. So I do hope that they'll reconsider their position and think again about what they've said. But the best way to achieve unity is by being inclusive and including people. And I think Jeremy Corbyn's leadership will be a different type of leadership, a collective leadership, a collegiate leadership. And I think we'll actually have a situation where some MPs who may have disagreements with Jeremy Corbyn on certain issues will find they get more of a hearing and more listened to than they did under previous leaders with whom they perhaps agreed on more policies.
Are you hoping to play a big role in all of that?
Well, I'm happy to support the elected leader of the Labour Party in any way I can. I think it should be everyone shoulder to shoulder, united, taking on the Tories and hoping to win in 2020.
Richard Burgon MP, thanks very much. Good to have you with us. Thanks for being with us here on BBC News. On a remarkable day, on a day that a Labour backbencher of 32 years standing was chosen as the Labour Party leader. Jeremy Corbyn winning an overwhelming victory. Tom Watson is the new deputy. And that is all from here at Westminster for now. Let's pause, catch up with the weather prospects. Nick Miller has those for us. Nick.
Hello, last weekend high pressure was settling our weather down, but now low pressure is back and the first area of rain from it so far this weekend. Tonight will clear northern Scotland. We'll see some gales developing in northwest Scotland, some showers affecting westernmost parts of the UK. Actually a lot of dry, fairly clear weather elsewhere. Temperatures for town and city centres down to around 10 Celsius or so. We'll start the day tomorrow with quite a lot of dry, sunny weather. Still some showers around in the west. The winds in the afternoon will slowly ease a bit in northwest Scotland, but strengthen in southwest England as some wet weather moves in. Gales developing in places here. Another area of rain clipping the far southeast of England, moving on towards East Anglia and parts of the East Midlands. Where you're staying dry though, with variable cloud and sunshine. Temperatures reach into the high teens. For Monday, low pressure coming in from the southwest. England and Wales seeing plenty of showers. And Northern Ireland and Scotland seeing fewest showers. The driest weather on Monday. And as ever, you can find a forecast for where you are or where you're going online.
Hello, this is BBC News with me, Anita McVeigh. The headlines for you now at 5:31. Jeremy Corbyn celebrates with his supporters after being elected as the new leader of the Labour Party. The veteran left-winger secured almost 60% of the vote in a landslide victory. Mr Corbyn promises to rejuvenate his party's fortunes after defeat at the general election, but some members of the shadow cabinet have already resigned. Tom Watson is elected as the party's deputy leader. He promised to back Mr Corbyn 100% and is seen as a key figure in maintaining party discipline. In other news, at least 2 British tourists have been killed after a train travelling to the Indian town of Shimla derailed. The train had been chartered privately and was carrying more than 30 British tourists. Officials in Saudi Arabia order an investigation after a crane collapses in the Muslim holy city of Mecca. 107 people were killed and more than 200 injured. Now it's time to catch up with Saturday's sporting action. We can head to the BBC Sports Centre and join Ollie. Hello there, Ollie.
Hello, Anita. Jose Mourinho says Chelsea's recent run of results is the worst he's experienced in his career. Their defeat at Goodison Park was the champions' 3rd in 5 matches, as many as they lost all last season in winning the title. Stephen Naismith scored a hat-trick as Everton won 3-1. Ben Smith was watching.
Under grey skies at Goodison Park, the stage was set for the Battle of the Blues. For Chelsea, the reminders of their very public and unsuccessful pursuit of John Stones were hard to miss. That has been the least of Jose Mourinho's problems. With their club doctor absent from work, Chelsea have looked off colour this season. Would this mark the start of their recovery? Everton delivered an immediate answer. A simple cross, an emphatic header from Stephen Naismith, and Everton were in front. Worse was to come for Chelsea. Naismith rubbing salt into the wounds 5 minutes later. Chelsea, though, are champions for a reason. The message from their manager was clear and his players responded. Nemanja Matic pulling Chelsea up by the scruff of the neck with this thunderous effort. But on this occasion there was to be no fairy tale comeback. With time slipping away, Everton poured forward again. That man Naismith delivered the final decisive blow to complete the perfect hat-trick. The result leaves Jose Mourinho's side off the pace and feeling the blues. The only special one at Goodison Park today went home with the match ball. Ben Smith, BBC News.
You're looking at an incredible solid performance defensively, which is the difference that we had 12 months ago. We scored 3 goals 12 months ago against the same Chelsea side, but clearly we weren't as solid, as strong or as resilient in the way to be competitive. I thought the performance when we had to keep the ball or we had to open them up, it's not easy. Remember, we scored 3 goals from open play, and to do that against Chelsea deserves an incredible credit to the players.
I can feel sadness, I can feel that sometimes it's too much for them. They try, and nothing goes in their favor. But I have a good feeling with them and for them. So for me, as a coach, is the best thing that can happen to me. The worst thing are the bad results that we are getting, and to be fair, is the first time in my career that I'm getting that. But I'm coping well with the situation because I'm in their side. I'm not against them.
Well, Manchester City are still top of the table, 11 points clear of Chelsea, but they needed a 90th minute winner at Selhurst Park to maintain their 100% record. They won 1-0 against Crystal Palace, who had been second at the start of the day. Nigerian teenager Kelechi Iheanacho was the hero for City, came off the bench and scored a 90th minute winner with his first touch. City lost Sergio Aguero with a knee injury in the first half.
It's not easy to start a new season, especially when you have players coming back in different moments. We couldn't work the whole preseason with the whole squad, but I think that the team is demonstrating why we won the 5 games, because we desire every game to demonstrate that what happened last season was just a problem that is in the past, and we are thinking now about the future.
Well, Arsenal have now moved above Crystal Palace into second after a 2-0 win at home to Stoke. That's 4 matches unbeaten now for the Gunners. Theo Walcott scored their first a week after his 2 goals helped England beat San Marino 6-0. Olivier Giroud came off the bench, sealed the win in the last 5 minutes.
Our performance was convincing. In the first half, our movement was outstanding. We created, in the second half, our pace dropped maybe a little bit in our passing, but we continuously created chances. I think overall, it is a strong performance.
Because I'm giving my nationality certificate, just the employment side.
The only regret tonight is that there's too big a difference maybe between the number of chances we created and the number of goals we scored, but that will come.
Couple of matches I haven't told you about. Norwich beat Bournemouth 3-1 at Carrow Road. Odion Ighalo gave Watford their first win of the season, 1-0 against Swansea. No goals between West Brom and Southampton. Manchester United and Liverpool just kicked off at Old Trafford. It's goalless. In the Championship, Nottingham Forest won for the first time in 4 games, coming from behind to beat QPR 2-1 at Loftus Road. Rangers looked to be heading towards a 4th win in a row when Charlie Austin put them ahead just after the hour mark. The game changed though when Rangers keeper Rob Green miscontrolled a back pass and bundled over Forest's Chris O'Grady, was sent off. Captain Henry Lansbury levelled from the spot. And Nelson Oliveira completed the comeback for Forest in the last 10 minutes to give them the 3 points. Brighton remain top of the Championship tonight after they beat Hull 1-0. Celtic look like they've got a serious rival for the Scottish Premiership title this season. They were beaten by 10-man Aberdeen, the Dons maintaining their 100% record with a 2-1 win at Pittodrie. Joe Linsky reports.
Aberdeen supporters are daring to dream. 5 wins out of 5 is their best start to a season since the days when Alex Ferguson was in charge here. But to mount a title challenge, you need success against Celtic, and to do that, you need to take early chances. The champions aren't so forgiving, and when Lee Griffiths earned and then scored this penalty, the home side's hopes looked deflated. But backed by their biggest crowd in 6 years, Aberdeen's revival would start with a second-half penalty of their own, and Adam Rooney found the same corner with the same precision. Now they were building momentum, but when Johnny Hayes lost control with this challenge, the task became much harder. So few would have expected a climax like this. Paul Quinn allowed the space to finish on the volley. Celtic slack, the Dons delighted. There would still be time for one dramatic final chance, but for Derek McInnes' side, this is a historic win. 6 wins out of 6 is new territory for this club. Even Sir Alex couldn't manage that. Joe Linsky, BBC News.
Elsewhere this afternoon, Kilmarnock are off the foot of the table. They won 2-1 away at Dundee United. Motherwell and Ross County drew 1-1. Partick Thistle lost 1-0 at home to Dundee, meaning they're now bottom. St Johnstone beat Hamilton 4-1. Hull Kingston Rovers have all but secured their place in the Super League for next season after a comfortable 48 points to 4 victory over Bradford in the Super 8 qualifiers. Rovers took an early lead through 2 tries from winger Josh Mantelazzo. Before this score from Kieran Dixon gave them an 8-point lead at the break. Bulls were outclassed throughout, weren't helped when they had 2 players sin bin. This try from Chris Wellham made the game safe before Dixon completed his hat-trick to give them their 5th straight victory in the competition. It's another Super 8 qualifier at 6. Wakefield Wildcats take on their Widnes Vikings. Catalan Dragons leads Rhinos about half an hour in 16-0 to the Dragons. Scarlets have continued their impressive start to Rugby Union's Pro 12 season. They beat Ulster 22-12 to make it 2 wins out of 2. Last season, this fixture produced 8 tries in a 32-all thriller. But after a rather more tame half this time, Scarlets led 9-0 thanks to 3 Dan Jones penalties. Now, Ulster's lack of discipline and sloppy handling really cost them. Saw Scarlets constantly on the attack, and a pair of perfectly weighted passes left Hadley Parks with a straightforward finish. Scarlets were weakened when John Barclay was sin-binned and Rory Scholes gave the visitors hope. Penalty try later helped their cause, but it wasn't enough. Scarlets winning by 10 points. Another couple of matches in the Pro 12. Leinster 3-6 down against Cardiff Blues. A good matchup between Treviso and Edinburgh. It's very nearly finished, and it's 24-all at the moment. Jamie Murray is in action in the men's doubles final at the US Open right now. Australian John Peers is his partner. They're playing the French duo Pierre-Hugh Herbert and Nicolas Mahut. It looks like it's going with serve. It's on the Murray-Peers serve. 3-4 down in the first set. It's moved on a bit since we made that graphic. Paralympic champion Johnny Peacock has won the T44 100 metres at the Great North City Games. Crowds over 25,000 lined the banks of the Tyne. As Peacock easily held off the opposition, this event staged as part of the build-up to the Great North Run, with Mo Farah defending his title tomorrow. The other British winner today was Tiffany Porter, who took the 100-metre hurdles title. The Commonwealth silver medalist held off Jasmine Stowers from the United States. There's real drama at the final flat racing classic of the season, the St Leger at Doncaster. The joint favourite Bondi Beach was the winner, but wasn't first past the post. The 8-1 chance, Simple Verse, ridden by Italian jockey Andrea Azzeni, looked to have won by a head, but the placings were reversed after a steward's inquiry. They found 2 instances of interference by Simple Verse inside the final 2 furlongs. The jockeys had to give their version of events, and the stewards decided that Bondi Beach, ridden by Colin O'Donoghue, had been impeded, so gave him the victory. It's trainer Aidan O'Brien's 5th win in the St Leger. That's the losing trainer. Andre Greipels won the penultimate stage at the Tour of Britain in East Anglia. The longest stage of the tour saw the German, seen here in red, Pip Team Sky's Elia Viviani on the finish line in a photo finish. Evel Boasson-Hagen, who won this race in 2009, finished 5th to maintain his overall lead, going into the final stage on the streets of London tomorrow. That's all sport for now. I'm going to be back with Matt Smith for a full half-hour sports day at 6:30. See you then.
See you later, Ollie. Thank you very much. Let's get more now on Jeremy Corbyn's election as leader of the Labour Party. He received almost 60% of the vote. And speaking after the announcement, he thanked his supporters and praised the party's interim leader, Harriet Harman. Here's more of what he had to say.
I want also to pay a huge thanks and tribute to Harriet Harman, who has been our acting leader and our deputy leader, and before that, our acting leader. I've known Harriet for a very long time, and what I would say of her is her absolute commitment and passion for decency, equality and the rights of women in our society is something that we will honour her for, thank her for, and we have legislation that's been brought about by her determination. Harriet, thank you so much for all you've done. And the way in which you've led the party since the tragedy of the election result in May. I want also to thank and congratulate Tom Watson on his election as Deputy Leader of the party. Tom is passionate about communication, passionate about holding the state and unaccountable people who don't wish to be accountable to account. Tom's your man to do that. I want also to thank Ed Miliband for all the work he did as leader of our party. I had a very long conversation with Ed a couple of days ago, and I thanked him for his work as leader of the party. I thanked him for his work as Environment Secretary and somebody who's passionate about defending the world's environment against the way it's being destroyed at the present time. But I also thanked him for the way in which he stood up to the abuse that he received by much of our media. And the dignity he showed when his late father, the great Ralph Miliband, was so brutally abused by some of our media. So Ed, thank you for all of that. I want to thank the fellow leadership candidates. We're discussing the number, whether it's 29, 35 or 39 hustings we've been to together since this election started. We'll discuss that later and exchange diaries. But it's been a fascinating experience for all of us. And I want to thank them for the way the debates were conducted, the way that we were able to put forward political debate and political differences and still come out at the end of it with a group hug. We're going to reform ourselves as an ABBA tribute band and continue this work in the future. Andy Burnham was our Health Secretary, and Andy's passion and determination for a national health service as a human right, free at the point of use, is something that comes over every time Andy speaks. And his passion for comprehensive education to ensure all children have a reasonable, fair and decent start in life. I want to say thank you to Yvette Cooper for all the work she's done in government and in the party, but in particular over the past few weeks, helping to shape and turn round public opinion to show sympathy and humanity towards refugees and the way they're treated. And one of my first acts as the leader of the party will be to go to the demonstration this afternoon to show support for the way refugees must be treated and should be treated in this country. I want to thank Liz Kendall for her friendship during this campaign, for the way we've managed to have some moderately different opinions on a number of issues, but we've managed to maintain a very good friendship. And Liz is somebody that I admire because she absolutely stands up for what she believes in, whether it's easy, simple or popular, or uneasy, not simple or popular. So Liz, thank you very much. During this amazing 3 months, our party has changed. We've grown enormously. We've grown enormously because of the hopes of so many ordinary people for a different Britain, a better Britain, a more equal Britain, a more decent Britain. They're fed up with the inequality, the injustice, the unnecessary poverty. All those issues have brought people in a spirit of hope and optimism. So I say to the new members of the party, or those that have joined in as registered supporters or affiliated supporters, welcome. Welcome to our party, welcome to our movement. And I say to those returning to the party who were in it before and felt disillusioned and went away, welcome back. Welcome back to your party. Welcome home. And as the media and maybe many of us simply didn't understand the views of many young people within our society, they had been written off as a non-political generation who were simply not interested, hence the relatively low turnout and low level of registration of young people in the last general election. They weren't. they're a very political generation that were turned off by the way in which politics was being conducted and not attracted or not interested in it. We have to and must change that. So the fight back now of our party gathers speed and gathers pace. I'm delighted that Kezia Dugdale is here today, our leader in Scotland. We're all going to be campaigning in Scotland, for Labour in Scotland, with those great traditions, those great Labour traditions in Scotland. I thank Carwyn Jones for his leadership and the way in which we're going to fight in Wales, and I congratulate them on ending the internal market in the health service in Wales, something we want to do in the rest of Britain. And I say congratulations to Marvin Rees, selected yesterday as our mayoral candidate for Bristol. We're all going to be down there, Marvin, helping you and supporting you to win Bristol. And to my friend Sadiq Khan, who's been elected as our mayoral candidate for London. Sadiq, we're going to be campaigning together. And we're going to be campaigning together, particularly on the crucial issue of housing in London. I am fed up with the social cleansing of London by this Tory government and its policies. We need a Labour mayor. We need a Labour mayor in London who can ensure we do house everyone in London. We do end the sky-high rents. We do end the insecurity of those living in the private rented sector. We need a Labour mayor to bring that about in this wonderful great city of London. And Sadiq's the man to do it. This week, the Tories will show what they're really made of. On Monday, they have the trade union bill designed to undermine even the ILO conventions and shackle democratic unions and destroy another element of democracy within our society. We have to oppose that. They're also pushing the welfare reform bill, which will bring such misery and poverty to so many of the poorest in our society. I want us as a movement to be proud, strong and able to stand up and say, we want to live in a society where we don't pass by on the other side of those people rejected by an unfair welfare system. Instead, we reach out to end the scourge of homelessness and desperation that so many people face in our society. We're strong enough and big enough and able to do that. That is what we're about. There are many, many issues we face, and many people face desperation in other parts of the world. And I think it's quite incredible the way the mood in Europe has changed over the past few weeks of understanding that people fleeing from wars, they are the victims of wars, they are the generational victims of war, they're the intergenerational victims of war, end up in desperation, end up in terrible places, end up trying to gain a place of safety, end up trying to exercise their refugee rights. They're human beings just like you, just like me. Let's deal with the refugee crisis with humanity, with support, with help, with compassion, to try to help people who are trying to get to a place of safety, trying to help people who are stuck in refugee camps, but recognise going to war creates a legacy of bitterness and problems. Let us be a force for change in the world, a force for humanity in the world, a force for peace in the world, and a force that recognises we cannot go on like this, with grotesque levels of global inequality, grotesque threats to our environment all around the world, without the rich and powerful governments stepping up to the plate to make sure our world becomes safer and better, and those people don't end up in poverty, in refugee camps, wasting their lives away when they could be contributing so much to the good of all of us on this planet. We are one world. Let that message go out today from this conference centre here in London. I conclude by this. The Tories have used the economic crisis of 2008 to impose a terrible burden on the poorest people in this country. Those that have seen their wages frozen or cut, those that can't afford to even sustain themselves properly, those that rely on food banks to get by. It's not right, it's not necessary, and it's got to change. We need an economic strategy that improves people's lives, that expands our economy, that reaches out to care for everybody. You can't do that if at the same time you do nothing about grotesque levels of inequality within our society. We need to develop an economic policy that deals with those issues. And so our party is about justice, is about democracy, it is about the great traditions we walk on. Those that founded our party and our movement, those that stood up for human rights and justice, the right for women to vote, the right for others to vote. We stand here today because of their work. But we go forward now as a movement and a party, bigger than we've ever been for a very, very long time, stronger than we've ever been for a very long time, more determined than we've been for a very long time, to show to everyone that the objectives of our party are intact. Our passion is intact. Our demand for humanity is intact. And we as a party are going to reach out to everyone in this country to take us on that journey together, so no one is left on the side. Everyone has a decent chance in life and a decent place within our society. That's what Labour was brought about to achieve. That is what we're going to achieve. This election campaign is, as we see here, about shaping our future. Our party is going to, I hope, become more inclusive, more involved, more democratic, and we're going to shape the future of everyone in this country in a way that I think will be remembered as something that is good for everyone, that brings about the justice that we all crave, and that is what brought us into this wonderful party and this wonderful movement ourselves. I say thank you to everyone for all their support, friendship and comradeship during this election process. And I say thank you in advance to us all working together to achieve great victories, not just electorally for Labour, but emotionally for the whole of our society, to show we don't have to be unequal, it doesn't have to be unfair, poverty isn't inevitable, things can and they will change. Thank you very much.
Jeremy Corbyn's acceptance speech after his landslide victory as Labour leader. More on that at the top of the hour right now. It's time for the weather forecast. Here's Nick Miller.
Hello, last weekend high pressure was settling our weather down, but now low pressure is back and the first area of rain from it so far this weekend. Tonight will clear northern Scotland. We'll see some gales developing in northwest Scotland, some showers affecting western most parts of the UK. Actually a lot of dry, fairly clear weather elsewhere. Temperatures for town and city centres down to around 10 Celsius or so. We'll start the day tomorrow with quite a lot of dry, sunny weather. Still some showers around in the west. The winds in the afternoon will slowly ease a bit in northwest Scotland, but strengthen in southwest England as some wet weather moves in. Gales developing in places here. Another area of rain clipping the far southeast of England, moving on towards East Anglia and parts of the East Midlands. Well, it's staying dry though, with variable cloud and sunshine. Temperatures reach into the high teens. But Monday, low pressure coming in from the southwest. England and Wales seeing plenty of showers. And Northern Ireland and Scotland seeing fewest showers. The driest weather on Monday. And as ever, you can find a forecast for where you are or where you're going online.
Get up to speed with all the day's sports. Don't miss Sports Day tonight at 6:30 on the BBC News Channel and again at 7:30.
Lives have changed forever. In the 9 months before they were even born.
Quite cool to find that I may be the first ever of my kind.
Countdown to Life, the extraordinary making of you, starts Monday at 9 on BBC Two.